Stephanie is the manager of forest at CDP. So Stephanie, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning to all. Thank you, Julie, for the introduction, and thank you all for joining us. I will be talking of why we need a forest positive future. And I'm going to start with telling you that the cost of inaction is greater than the cost of action. We have $53.1 billion is the estimated financial impact of risk from deforestation, which is equal to the net worth of the 22nd richest person in the world from the Forbes list, who is also known as Mackenzie Scott, one of Amazon's shareholders. In turn, responding to all risk would cost an estimate of $6.6 billion, which is equal to the net worth of the 400th, as I mentioned, 400th richest person on the list. In the next 12 minutes, I will explain why we need a forest positive future and how data can drive market transformation that can protect our forest and the need to come together as a global community to address this pressing issue. I will touch upon 3 main points. 1, why is forest important? What data is telling us about agriculture commodity markets, and the pathway we need to create to have a forest positive future. So why are forests important? I'm aware most of us, when thinking about the food system, we do not think about forests. We do not think about forests on our daily basis. However, forests provide many of the products we consume daily. They are in our food. They can be in our mayonnaise, in our cookies, in our pastries, in our cleaning products, in our cosmetics, in our transportation system in the form of leather seeds or as biofuels. They are even in the vitamins we take like collagen from cattle. We're surrounded by forest products every day and we do not realize it. Just take a look at the desk or chair each of us is sitting right now. They come from a forest. 30% of Earth's land surface is covered by the world forest, and they provide benefits to the global population. Forests are responsible for global and local regulation, climate regulation. They provide business and society essential benefits such as livelihoods for 1.6 billion people, water supply, protection from pollution, soil erosion control, and are also home to the world's biodiversity. According to the WRI Global Forest Watch report in 2020, there has been a 12th increase in tree cover loss, and they are the world's regions that are reaching their tipping point. There are some facts I would like to mention just to situate us in this issue. So tropical forest loss accounts for more than 90% of global deforestation, with hotspots located in Southeast Asia and Latin America. The single largest cause of deforestation and forest degradation globally is commercial agriculture. Land use change for agriculture drives up to 80% of forest loss, and just 7 agriculture commodities like cattle, palm oil, soy, timber, coffee, cocoa, and rubber accounted for 26% of global tree cover loss from 2001 to 2015. These agriculture commodities are heavily tied up in corporate supply chains, posing a risk to businesses. Another important fact is that deforestation is the source of 12 to 14% of global greenhouse gas emissions, according to the IPCC, or the 3rd biggest emitter if it were a country, after China and the US. According also to the IPCC, the mitigation potential of reduced deforestation is up 1/3 of total global emissions. And all pathways, and I repeat, all pathways that limit global warming to 1.5 degrees include protecting existing tropical forests, whilst working urgently to restore degraded ones and to reduce and avoid further emissions. So halting deforestation is critical to achieving the Paris Agreement and the Sustainable Development Goals. The last and most important point I want to make is that the value of standing forests due to their carbon capture capacity is greater than the one of growing forest. If we continue deforestation at this rate, forests will play against us. not by storing carbon, but by releasing more carbon than absorbing. Now, going to my second point is that transformation starts with disclosure. And this deforestation is a complex problem, which needs the right mix of solutions, collaboration, and transparency. Companies play a key role in ending deforestation. They can influence how they produce and drive change in their value chain at scale. In 2020 at CDP, we had 687 companies producing, manufacturing, buying, or selling forest risk commodities disclosed to our platform. With this information, CDP's forest team was able to track to individual and markets' collective advancement. The goal to eliminate deforestation from production of agricultural commodities by 2020 has not been met. Nonetheless, some good news is that 93% of the companies that reported to CDP have taken at least one industry-accepted measure to safeguard forests. We measure companies and analyze where they are in the pathway to a deforestation-free future. We have 15 KPIs that are based on industry-accepted best measures and informed by the accountability framework, in which we classify companies and benchmark sector performance. What did we find? Well, 82% of companies are at the developing stage, incorporating between 1 and 8 industry-accepted measures for at least one commodity. And only 4 companies are demonstrating best practices, and these are Essity, L'Oreal, Mars, and Tetra Pak. What companies are looking into as risk are reputational and market risk, which continue to be at the forefront of corporate concerns. And it comes to deforestation, not all companies fully grasp additional risks, and they can be exposed to within their commodity value chain. Taking action on deforestation is an opportunity that can increase brand value, shareholder value, improve supply chain resilience, increase competitive advantage, grant market access, and also grant financial access. 131 companies that disclosed through CDP's forest questionnaire valued these forest-related opportunities at $35.6 billion. These includes companies like CMPC, who's a timber company and paper, and who has found new financing opportunities and increased investor base. We see that different commodities are at different stages. This is also important to remember in their journey to become deforestation free. While progress on the palm oil and timber sectors are more advanced, the action in supply chains of soy and cattle continue to trail behind. So the good news is progress is happening, but it is slow. At the rate deforestation is happening, we need to take bolder actions, which brings me to my third point and last point. How do we create a forest positive future? How do we scale corporate actions? How do we have faster and greater impact? As I mentioned, transformation starts with disclosure. With our data, we can identify which companies and sectors are lagging. We know where they are encountering most challenge, risk, and opportunities. And there is not one sole answer into how we can halt deforestation, but putting the true value of forests at the forefront of the problem, valuing their climate regulation potential, their environmental benefits, the bioeconomy creation, and the social value forests bring to indigenous communities, smallholders, and all citizens around the globe is key. The Boston Consulting Group conducted a comprehensive analysis in which they estimated that the total value of the world's forest is as much as $150 trillion. I will repeat this because this is very important. $150 trillion. Nearly the double value of the global stock market. That is why having quality data and putting value to our forests is a step in the right direction. To push markets to improve their practices is key. Holding stakeholders accountable for their actions in driving governments towards a more stringent legislation will result in the market shift we're looking for. To build a forest positive future, we need a collaborative, scalable, measurable, and traceable action from all stakeholders: private sector, governments, NGOs, and consumers. And that is also up to us. We need collaborative actions such as the LEAVE initiative that was launched last Friday to mobilize at least $1 billion this year to large-scale forest protection. And we need to unlock collaboration potentials and scale the protection and restoration of our forest. So in summary, what I would like you to take away from these 12 minutes, hopefully, or maybe a little bit less or more, I'm not sure, is that we're failing to address the systemic nature of both poverty and deforestation. These go together. It's not a separate problem. Poverty and deforestation go together. With quality data, we can collaboratively work towards actions that can guide system transformations. And we have no time to lose. We continue to lose forest at an alarming rate, 10 million hectares lost each year from 2015 onwards, and they are critical for our existence in this planet. Standing forests, as I mentioned at the beginning, are the most valuable natural global asset, and I will repeat this, natural global, valuable global asset we have, and saving them will result in a forest positive future. This will take integrated, multi-stakeholder, tremendously collaborative approach in which each of us, as I said, be it organizations, governments, or individuals, we need to step up and do our part. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Wow, I'm speechless. That was fantastic. First of all, if you could take a moment and tell us a little bit about CDP, the environmental platform itself, and how are you supported, and how do these companies find you, and how do you work with them?
Absolutely. So CDP is a nonprofit organization that runs the global disclosure system for investors, for companies, for cities, states, and regions to manage their environmental impacts. We have the richest, and I would say the most comprehensive data set on corporate and city action. And our objective is to see a thriving economy that works both for the people and the planet in the long term. How do companies find us? So how it works, pretty much we have investors that are signatories, and they request from their portfolio information to companies. So we have a company sample that is sent out each year. We report on climate, water, and forest. For the forest questionnaire, I think we've invited last year 1,600 companies, and they only 687 responded. So about 31% response, which is good. It has been up by 27% in the last year, but it's still low. So companies are still lagging in responding. Some companies do not know how to respond or what to respond, which is also something that we see. And we also have a program for supply chain. And this is bigger companies, for example, McDonald's wants to know more of their suppliers can report through CDP for the different commodities. We score 4 of the commodities that are mentioned that are the biggest drivers. So I mentioned 7, we receive information for all 7, but we only score cattle, palm oil, soy, and timber. How can they find us? They can go to www.cdp.net, and you can find a lot of information. If you have, questions about companies that have been reporting to CDP, you can create a login, and you can see the information from different companies and the reports. There's also companies that keep their information private, so that would not be available. But there's a lot of studies, and we released our forest report on March 22nd this year, or 23rd this year. So just a month back. And yes, that's how they can find us.
And you mentioned 4 companies that really stood out as success here. L'Oreal and Mars are just 2 of the 4. What have they done, and how difficult has it been for them to promote and implement these new approaches?
Yes, so Essity, L'Oreal, Mars, and I'm forgetting one that I mentioned.
I should have written it down. Sorry.
Tetra Pak, sorry. Yeah,
Yes.
Tetra Pak. So what we do is that we have 15 KPIs in which we measure both governance, strategy, risk, opportunities, ecosystem transformation. We also measure supplier engagement with direct or indirect suppliers. Each of them are reported through a platform. And as I mentioned, it is also, we're aligned with the Accountability Framework Initiative. And by this, what have they done? Mars engages their suppliers beyond their first year. They also, I know that, for example, L'Oreal is very prone on palm oil. And this is how they look into landscape transformation. They invest in their suppliers. They also have public commitments. That is something I want to touch upon because commitments are key for halting deforestation. A lot of companies do not have commitments, and we need more companies to take commitments, have policies, have their governance. And right now, one of the talks that is happening in the forest area is having this multi-stakeholder approach, which is called jurisdictional approaches. So you involve local governments, you involve local jurisdictions to track deforestation and be more stringent, but also in a collaborative manner with companies, influencing smallholders and influencing the result and type of products that you have.
Thank you. Stephanie, there are a number of questions that have started to come in. I think some of them hopefully you can get to because we have about 2 minutes left, but I'm going to throw a couple at you very quickly. One is from Brian asking consumer specific questions. Do you help consumers in some way so that they can choose products that will be more friendly for us? And also, how do we persuade farmers in tropical regions? Because obviously this is a livelihood. I know this is a very complex issue with palm oil, for example. How can we help them in the transition?
So we are, I would say, more of a B2B, business to business platform. However, the influence we do have is in how companies are being transparent and how we're pushing companies to become more transparent. And consumers need to be, we are becoming more savvy, but I think forests sometimes can be disconnected of the whole food system, because I've seen in various food system talks where, you know, talking about the amazing technology, the amazing data that we're getting where we're producing, but we have this huge problem that is deforestation in tropical areas such as Latin America and Southeast Asia. So I would say look into products that are certified, investigate the companies that you're buying from, know the ingredients, you know, like even inks come from soy, you know, inks in sustainable packaging come from soy. The cattle that you eat, is it coming from deforested land? If they're not, you know, in the US, usually cattle is not coming from deforested land, but maybe the soy that this cattle is eating is coming from land that has been deforested. So it is important to know where your products are coming from. It is important to know the ingredients that your products have. And it is important to hold companies accountable and ask for more information. You know, I have colleagues that have asked, are my vitamins coming from collagen from cattle from deforested lands? And companies answer, because we are important to companies as consumers. And the other question you asked was, sorry.
About poor farmers, we have just a short
Yes.
period of time, but
regarding farmers, we do ask a question regarding connecting to second and third tier suppliers. And we also look into ecosystem restoration and how they're implementing regenerative agriculture, how in touch do they provide financial support or capacity building support to small holder farmers. However, this is something that we've been talking within the team and see how we could influence more, but we influence the companies, the action companies do, rather than at the farm level.